Oh, hey buddy, it's your old pal Scott, and this is Let's Talk Tabletop. Now, I know what you're thinking. You think this is about cuss words, and of course, when you're playing games at the club, there's some adult language thrown around potentially, and most of us will be adults at the club anyway, so typically, unless you're in really mixed company, it's not so big of a deal. You can let that go. But you know what? There is one F word that I do not allow at my table. And do you know what that is? It's fun. Now, I know you're all cringing. I get it. I get it. It's a play on words. It's the F word. It's fun. Whatever. But honestly, fun is the most dangerous word you can use in gaming, and I'll explain why. Now, of course, everybody knows that there's different types of players in our hobbies, right? Whether it's card games, board games, miniatures games, there's a million different players of different types. But generally speaking, they fall into either a competitive or a casual category, right? You've got your lore people, you've got your ultra competitives, you've got different variations or classes, but mostly it's competitive versus casual. And the problem is that both of them see the game as fun. There's casual players out there that believe that drinking a beer and rolling some dice with no care of who's winning is fun. There's also people who want to hear the cries and lamentations of your women and drive you from the board completely. So there's very different types of people in there. But they both use the word fun. The word fun doesn't mean anything except that you enjoy yourself doing it, right? So arguably, a bank robber would say robbing a bank is fun, while you or I would disagree. Arguably, a war criminal would think that's fun, while we would disagree. It doesn't matter. It's only an internal thing. So when you're trying to meet up with somebody and they're like, "Oh, what kind of game you want to play?" and you reply, "Oh, I just like a fun game." What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. In other words, you're saying, "Oh, I like to enjoy myself when I play the game." Well, if you're not playing to enjoy yourself, then why are you playing to begin with? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And it's actually a really dangerous word if you think about it. You know what's not dangerous? Checking out Brutality Skirmish War Game, Brutal Epic, or Brutal Space, or the upcoming Mass Brutality. You can find all that at brutalityskirmishwargame.com. But my point is that it's a very dangerous word. So I really think we should just take the word fun out of our vocabulary for these types of games. What you really should say is something a lot more specific, such as, "I really like to try my best," or "I just really care about telling a good story," or "I know all of the meta," or "I don't even know how to spell meta." There's a lot of way more specific things that you could say, and actually that would make matchups far easier, because at the end of the day, and many people have said this in my videos, whether you're casual or you're competitive, it really doesn't matter as long as your expectations are matching your opponent's expectations, because this is a social game. Am I right? Of course I am. So if you want a hardcore match and they're not ready for that, neither one of you are truly going to enjoy yourself, because you're going to not get any challenge whatsoever from them, and they're going to be tabled turn one or two. So it really behooves all of us to use more specific language. But fun as a word means nothing to your opponent. And I've actually found a lot of bad actors in this hobby to actually hide behind the words like fun or silly and claim that they are, "Oh, just it's just a silly list. It's just a silly list. I like to play silly lists and have a fun game." Now, doesn't that sound super innocuous? Like, "Oh, okay, silly lists. Well, he must be bringing, I don't know, a bunch of subpar units that are themed funny, like he's going to bring all rhinos or something," right? You just assume that's what that means. And he likes a fun game? Well, gee, I like a fun game too. Okay, I guess that's cool, right? Or if you're playing Magic, it'd be like a deck that's really themed, but it's not super powerful. It's just a silly deck, right? Just silly. And of course, fun. Oh, he loves having fun. Absolutely. And then both of those give you the opportunity to just be creamed on the first turn because their silly list is whatever. But the point is that you got to really watch the language used around the table, especially if you don't know who you're playing, because I've known people personally that use the word silly or fun, and they hide behind that so that it's a gotcha moment, and on the tabletop, they'll just crush you. It could be a lack of social skills. It could be a lack of awareness. It could be that their expectations are that you are just like them, because people tend to think everybody's like me, right? So next time somebody says, "What kind of game would you like to play?" Don't use the F word. Don't use it. Just be more specific so that both of you meet expectations. And that truly is the balancing factor of any game, is that both of you have the same, at least similar expectations. If someone says, "Oh yeah, I like to win and try my best and I'm really into the meta," to be honest with you, I would be like, I don't think I'm the opponent for you, and we would just figure something out. I'd find them another opponent or whatever, or I'd say, well, I really don't follow the meta, so do you want to tone it down? Or how about you tone it down and I'll try to tone it up, and I'll try to improve my list and you tone yours down a little bit, and then we're both kind of more or less compatible together. I've spoke about this before, but I really don't like the idea that people think because it's printed by a company like Games Workshop or any of the companies, that it's somehow inherently balanced. And that as long as you take things that they allow you to take, and as long as you play the missions they tell you to play, that it's going to be balanced and fun. But it's not going to be balanced and fun for everybody. I think that's a really good way for people to hide behind the fact that, oh, I have plausible deniability and I can just do whatever I want, and hey, it's in the rules. And that's exactly how a lot of people make themselves not feel so bad about being cheesy players, essentially. Well, thank you so much for watching the video, and I will see you next week. And I would like to say that all of my Patreon patrons that are right here, let me step aside, all my Patreon patrons make this show possible. So thank you to each and every one of you. And whoa, what is this? We've got a new one right there. Pestilence. Thank you so much, Pestilence, for joining the channel. I greatly appreciate it. And I will see you next week.